Madam Deputy Speaker, before we get too indulgent with the Attorney-General's valedictory speech there's one name I need to mention when she talks about doing more, and that is Ashley Paul Griffith. 300 offences, 91 cases.
Pause the clock. I'll listen to the Attorney-General's point of order.
Point of order. This matter is still before the court. It has not been completed. This is sub judice and we should not be talking about this matter.
Thank you. I'll just take some advice. Member, the Attorney-General's advice is that this is still before the court. I will remind you of that and of the sub judice rules before you continue your speech.
Indeed, Madam Deputy Speaker, yes, it is before the court. I acknowledge that, and that matter is awaiting sentencing at the moment. That matter is awaiting sentencing at the moment.
Order, members. Members to my right. Order. Member for Clayfield has the call.
That matter is awaiting sentencing, and I will not be commenting on that matter before the court. But it is.
Order, members.
But Madam Deputy Speaker, it is in my submission within the rules to mention that there is a matter that is currently before the court. So I haven't commented on any aspect. I have not commented on any aspect of it other than to say there is a matter before the courts. Madam Deputy Speaker, I will move on though. I accept the concern that's been raised. So, but Madam Deputy Speaker, because of the failings that have been identified in relation to the child protection system, that is why, in respect to working with children and making sure that our children are as safe as they can be, we cannot be satisfied with what this government has either done or failed to do over the last more than half a decade. Let's have a look at what they have failed to do, because there was an original report that was made by the Queensland Family and Child Commission, and I acknowledge Mr Twyford, and I acknowledge the very good work he and his commission do. And I want to remind people that it was the Labor Party that voted against the establishment of that commission in 2014. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, when it comes to the work that commission does, the LNP is very supportive of it. We established that commission in 2014 against the wishes and the votes of the Labor Party at the time. But they issued a report and that identified a number of matters that needed to be done in 2017 following the investigation into the tragic death of TLE Palmer. 81 recommendations issued in 2017. And what did the then Premier at the time say in her response? She said, the establishment of a reportable conduct scheme. Oh, sorry, I've got the wrong one. I'll come back to it. But what happened is, what happened was that nothing or almost nothing was done for a lengthy period of time, such that when the QFCC did a review of matters in 2021, it recognised and identified that the government had completed 16 of 81 recommendations. 4 years, so 2017, 18, 19, 20, 21. 4 years after the report, the government had completed 16 of 81 recommendations. On the 8th of August 2023, 28 recommendations from the report had been implemented. So they'd gone from 16 to 28, and a further 49 recommendations remained in progress. And then, because I asked questions about it, in estimates last year we found that virtually nothing had been done. And then we had a horrific matter that has already been mentioned. And then the government sprang into action. And because of those failings, Madam Deputy Speaker, that is why the LNP has committed to a major inquiry, and we have committed that if elected, we will ask Mr Twyford, as the chair of the Child Death Review Board, to conduct a systems inquiry, and that will investigate child protection system failures. He will be able to exercise the powers of the Child Death Board under Section 29. He will make recommendations and reforms to strengthen the systems, and he will be able to make a public report upon completion. And that is a plan to protect our most vulnerable, and that is children. And that is a plan that will restore confidence in a system that parents have lost confidence in. When they go and drop their child off at a childcare centre, they want to know that their child will be safe. When they drop their child off at school, they want to know that their child will be coming home and will not have been attacked, molested or otherwise interfered with. And the only way to do that is to make sure that the system is working as it should. So when the attorney stands up and does her eulogy about how proud she is about those sorts of things, I accept that things have been done. And I accept and read the reports with care that the QFCC and others have put forward. But that doesn't mean that we can't hold the candle and hold the fire to the feet of this government for their failures. And one of their big failures, and I want to mention it as well, which is being belatedly addressed at this part of the 57th Parliament, is in relation to the reportable conduct system. Because it was a recommendation of the Royal Commission into institutional responses to child sexual abuse. And it was a report that was also given in 2017. And it was a report that the then Premier Anastasia Palaszczuk, part of the Palaszczuk-Miles Labor government for the last 9 years, responded to.
Member, I think the previous speakers have already issued direction around the reference to former and current governments.
Indeed. The Labor government for the last 9 years, Madam Deputy Speaker, and this is what the then Premier of the now and still existing Labor government said. The establishment of a reportable conduct scheme is a priority for Queensland. Institutions need to be held accountable for the way they protect children and investigate allegations of harm. Well, that was issued on the 15th of June 2018. And here we are in 2017, 5 years, half a decade later, and it's finally being done. Madam Deputy Speaker, if that is protecting children, if that is acting with alacrity, if that is acting, as the then Premier said, with priority, then God help Queensland if this government gets re-elected on the 26th of October, because the only way that you will actually get change and have a team that has a plan for a change to protect our children is to vote for change on the 26th of October and show Labor the door in 2024. Madam Deputy Speaker, exactly, I take the interjection. There is chaos and crisis across there, and we are seeing that in bills being introduced in the budget sitting week being passed on the second last day of the 57th Parliament, following reports that were issued over 5 years ago. And we heard nothing from the voices over there in that intervening period. Not one of them has stood up and said anything about it. Well, Madam Deputy Speaker, it is a shameful legacy, and it is shameful that that has been allowed to occur. Madam Deputy Speaker, there is much in the Working with Children bill that is worthy of support. It's just that it should have been done sooner. And the changes that are being made into the way the system works and the manner of assessment, which have been outlined by the attorney in her contribution, are welcomed. The introduction of the reasonable person test, I know it's a different reasonable person test than the reasonable person test we were discussing yesterday, is welcome, because there are delays in the system. And there are terrible delays in the system. One only needs to look at the law rights submission to the Committee of Inquiry, which indicates delays not only with the processing times for people who have perhaps one notifiable offence from a long time ago, but then also in the appeal process to QCAT, another area that this attorney has allowed delay to be exacerbated, such that a QCAT appeal in relation to a blue card decision can take something in the order of up to 16 months to get determination, causing significant harm to people. Of course, we very much welcome the changes that have been recommended and have been reviewed by the committee in relation to the kinship carer system. And we support those changes, as our shadow spokesperson has indicated in that respect. And we will consider and look at the amendments that the attorney has just circulated in relation to that and in relation to other adult members of the household. But in doing so, we're cognizant again of what the Attorney-General said, and that is that often offences occur from those places where you should least expect it to occur, and that is with other family members. And so in going down this path, and we acknowledge the recommendation of the committee to do so, and we acknowledge the testimony of Commissioner Lewis in respect to this to the committee around that, we need to ensure that there are firm and robust systems in place in relation to placement decisions that are made regarding kinship care and children being placed in kinship carer situations. And whilst the ideal would be that no mistakes are ever made, we understand that these things do occur, and a system is only a system. But the system needs to be as good as it can be to do what it needs to do to protect the most vulnerable, and children in those circumstances are often the most vulnerable. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, let's not wax lyrical about what this Labor government has done. It has done some things, but it has missed a great number of opportunities, and who knows how many untold instances where children have not been protected and they ought to have been protected because of the lack of a reportable conduct scheme, because of the failure to implement the recommendations made in 2017. And I say again, if you want a team that has a plan for beyond 2024, then you need to vote to change the government on October the 26th.